Hello, everybody.
Hello, and welcome to the Red Web Superhero Talk Show. I'm your host, Brad West. Joining me today, Mr. Greg Burrow for Dragons Are Comics and Fantasy. And what's going on this weekend, Greg? What's the
August 14th is, of course, Free Comic Book Day, and then also downtown Austin will be doing the Austin Pride Parade.
So we're going to pop around to our various supporters and affiliates, as well as a drive-through comic book day for Free Comic Book Day at Dragon's Lair. They're going to be giving their stuff to you to drive through so you can avoid the COVID crowd protocols as well as the tremendously awful heat here in Texas.
Yes.
And
shop small, support your people. It's like we've got Dragon's Lair, we've got Back City Comic Professionals,
Tribe of Comics and Games.
And Tribe.
We love all of them, and we love all of our friends that support us.
Hop around to everybody. It's great.
Pick up your free comic books and go online. I think just freecomicbookday.com is where they have like the information, so it's easy to find online. So every year normally it's in May. It's usually the first Saturday of May, but because of this year, because of COVID and everything, it got pushed back until August 14th, which is why I smell right in the middle of the Pride Parade. In the meantime, we are talking about Back to School Summer Review, and this is a Marvel edition. Today we're going to do the third of the Disney Direct shows, Loki the miniseries.
Woo! Any excuse to have Tom Hiddleston in anything.
Yes, you know what? I mean, he's been quoted saying a couple of times, I'm sure at some point he'll change his mind, but right now he's like, I'll play Loki forever, and it's like,
he's a sweet guy who likes the attention.
He does. I mean, you ever see that first video, that very first Comic-Con video after Thor, when he shows up,
oh my God, and they're cheering.
And he walks out on stage in the Loki costume, and he's in character, but man, the applause is so overwhelming that he just breaks. He breaks. He can't hold it together. He's like, we are
all
he's embarrassed.
Tom Hiddleston, guys.
He was embarrassed because that was happening. It's amazing.
It hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped.
It's like the horny memes have not stopped.
Yes.
They just kept going.
And you know what the fun thing about it is he actually auditioned to play Thor.
Yes.
Which is funny because if you've ever seen Tom Hiddleston in anything else, he's actually blonde. Which is it's really kind of striking.
I'm literally like mentally filing back, and I'm like,
he really is blonde.
Oh my God! Oh my God! He's been black haired for so long.
Only in Marvel. Like the past couple of things I've seen him outside of Marvel, he's been super blonde. But yeah. Well, okay, some of this because he does a lot of period stuff with like the grease in the hair, so it takes away from the blondness of the blonde. But he's blonde.
It's one of those bits of information that I've literally glossed over so much. It took you saying it for me to like flash back, and it's like, but what about this movie? No, he was blonde in that. Like,
Crimson Tide blonde.
So anyways, Loki,
yes. By the
I
way.
personally have enjoyed this one. I think that it didn't have the impact of Falcon Winter Soldier or WandaVision.
No.
But again, this is only the first half.
It's only the first half. It really did not feel... That is the
only problem.
That is the major difference between Loki... And one more time, just in case this is your last chance to shut this off, is we are spoilerizing things because my biggest complaint, yes, is that unlike the other ones, there was no sense of completion. I felt
they were like season 2.
Yeah, it's like
it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it gets to the end and then they're like, oh, and by the way, Loki's coming back for season 2. I'm like, no, screw you. Loki's coming back for the other half of season 1. Don't play games with us. We know what's what.
They should have. Yeah, I get it. I get why they chose to stop where they stopped. But they should have waited.
Yeah.
They should have waited and just done the whole thing. I get it. We're gonna watch it anyway.
Now my husband hates the Wilsons. I love Luke and Owen Wilson, and I have got to tell you,
he was charming in this.
I loved him in this. I didn't know what to expect when they first.
I didn't hate him in this.
When they first announced that Luke Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
the other one. Luke Wilson's in Stargirl,
which
we'll talk about next week. But Owen Wilson, and when they first announced he was going to be in this, I was like, I don't really know who or what he could
Why?
be. And so, and we've talked about this on some of the other stuff. When you got us hardcore fans, it's really nice to shake it up and throw characters in there that we don't know anything about and everything. And so Morbius
keeps us on our toes.
Morbius was a fresh character. I enjoyed him. I loved him. I found it hopefully amusing when they actually recently interviewed Ming-Na Wen. And she was talking about her opinions on the Disney Plus series. Because you guys,
really?
She's also not only from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she's also in some of the other Disney Plus series like Mandalorian and stuff like that. So anyway, they're asking her what she thought about it. She's actually quite lovely. She said Loki was her favorite. And I did find it was amusing. She's like, and who knew Owen Wilson was a sexy silver fox? And I'm like, you go me not.
That is correct.
And she's like, who knew he had it in him? I'm like,
it's like, I'm so used to Bro Owen Wilson that when they said Owen Wilson was going to be in this, once you see the streaks, you're like, okay.
I'm okay with it.
The mustache is kind of silly, but okay.
But otherwise, I'm into it.
Right?
I'm into it. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
I love a lot of the Easter eggs. I thought the Easter eggs were fun.
There's so
Throg,
many Easter eggs in this.
Throg, I love that. The Thanos chopper.
The Thanos chopper. So, I didn't know the Thanos chopper until it pops up on my thing, and apparently, this is an honest to God thing. In the Electric Company comic book that would come out that Marvel was producing for kids to help them learn how to read, they kind of would lighten the characters up a little bit to appeal to younger readers. And one of their ways of doing this with Thanos, whose name literally means death, was to give him his own helicopter that says Thanos on the side of the helicopter. And this was in the Electric Company comic book, and so that's what you see.
Was it just in that?
It was just in that. It wasn't actually a main comic. It was something that was written for children. But still, that's a pretty funny deep cut to throw up on there.
Yeah.
Because
there was some wild stuff that came up on this. It's like, and this is one of those moments where you realize how endless the possibilities are. Because I had to sit there and fact check every single variant thing that popped up. Yes, all of those exist.
All of those exist.
Croc Loki.
Croc Loki. Okay. And so, Legos. I love my Legos. I collect Legos, and I like the Marvel ones specifically. And the first ever Marvel mini figure series has been announced, literally yesterday. And it's based on the 3 shows that we are reviewing for you right now: WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. And the Loki variant minifigure comes with Frog Thor with a little tiny hammer. And it's so cute. It doesn't come out until September, but I'm totally going to have to find me Frog Thor with a little tiny hammer.
Oh my god.
Throg.
First Throg, as I see, is known by the fans. Now, before we get into the main plot of the story, I'm going to do an overarching thing because I want to talk about something that's actually kind of concerning me right now. And it is the concept of the multiverse as a whole. This does, I am going to admit, give me pause. Because while there is the part of me that goes, oh wow, this is cool, that gives us so much more possibilities and so much fresh content and concept and things to draw from, and then we don't have to feel as stifled by the whole continuity, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get that creatively.
You can recast parts easily.
I get that creatively, but I also fear in the bottom of my heart that it's going to turn into lazy writing, Deus Ex Machina, where it's just and we wrote ourselves into a corner, so multiverse! And
right?
That's
doesn't matter. And
there's no, you're right, it doesn't matter. That's exactly the words I'm looking for.
It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Yes, exactly. And the thing that I think has been selling the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point, because of the interconnectivity, the stakes are higher.
For what it's worth. Yes, that. I was like, for what it's worth, it's suffering for both halves. It's suffering for Marvel and DC.
But but having the stakes from this be bigger because of the interconnectivity, the multiverse does kind of go, well, why should I care? They can just come back and say that was a different timeline or universe or variant or whatever.
Well, and I kind of had to go off of this concern because... And you guys have definitely seen the memes. It's like, to understand by the time we get to Loki, Wanda is ready to rip reality open to find her children. Mm. And then you have Loki, who has single-handedly, by one thing that happened...
destroyed all of
in Avengers Endgame, upset everything. Yeah. The entire timeline is now... completely decimated, and we are about to have we are about to have several different people come in and try to destroy everything. We say several people, we mean Kang the Conqueror, that's it.
But he is several people.
But, yeah. That's another issue for later. It's like, but basically all of this is supposed to lead up to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So imagine, he's already gone through the blip. He was one of the people that went through the blip. Wanda's ripped reality open. Loki has ripped the multiverse open. And now he has to fix it. Now the Multiverse of Madness, he has to fix it. It's really stressful, guys. I'm stressed out. Because when they said Multiverse of Madness was going to come out, I was like, oh, cool, neat. And they were like, no, it's going to be scary. And I was like, oh,
this
neat.
is something I complain about in comic books all the time. It is just
it's so stressful.
It's a danger of the medium, but escalation. At some point, you can only get bigger and bigger, and once you hit a ceiling, it's like, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that I liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier so much, is that even though, yes, there was the political aspect that played out on a global scale, in the long run, it was still a more grounded story.
Yeah, we're about to go
and it pulled back some, and I think I really want to feel those intimate stories more. And seeing Loki kind of take that the whole other direction.
That's probably why I was so turned off by this. Like, it wasn't a bad show. And honestly, there are bits, like, literally the last episode is my favorite of the whole thing. It's like, but it's like the other ones were grounded. They were kind of interesting. I mean, of course, she's going to try to find an alternate reality to find her kids. I kind of figured.
Right.
But it's
but
like
still,
the problem
in the long run, it was about her trauma and her coping and her growing from that.
Like, literally, they could have ended the story there and I would have been perfectly content. It's like, but now we are getting into the more fantastical parts of these movies. And again, reality is about to get ripped open.
Now, that's not to say that there's not a personal story in Loki, because, I mean, again, Tom Hiddleston is fantastic.
That's one of the things I loved, is that there is so much character growth over this series. Especially for Loki, because the Loki that's at the beginning of this series is not the Loki from MCU that you've grown to love over the
right. Well, and
he's
from the first Avengers, the one that was like the pure evil Loki.
Well, not necessarily pure evil, but definitely not the one that had grown to accept Thor as a brother and to take ownership of his action and to sacrifice himself. This is not the Loki.
This is the Loki, but the Loki going through this series is a Loki that's actually going through therapy in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, just the problem is that it's like, yes, this is not a version of the story I've seen before, but we've had to go through their Loki redemption arc so many times that I'm just like, it wasn't the thing I was interested in. I did like the Enchantress thing, even though I still kind of think they cheated.
And I understand that. I don't think necessarily...
This was still a great TV show.
I don't think it was necessarily Loki redemption, because definitely in
he had to learn about himself.
In Infinity War, when he sacrificed himself for Thor, that was a redemption thing.
It's like, but we're used to his character being the type of character who has to learn.
This is true. But I think the key thing that really actually sold this version of Loki as a different version of Loki for me is that the Loki who dies in Infinity War is still selfish. Is still ultimately he's doing it not necessarily for the glory, but for his own reasons. Whereas the Loki that you have in the TV show is still somebody who doesn't feel like he deserves to be loved. Is still somebody, and I think that's the thing. You never have that from the Loki that dies in Infinity War. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He understands that he's got more to himself than before, but he still doesn't really understand that he's loved. It's the Loki in the show that realizes, oh my God, like
I was loved.
I was loved. I was an asshole to my mother. I was an asshole to my brother, and they both loved me. And it's like, what kind of person am I at this point that I'm watching myself die? And what did I, and the emotional impact on that was amazing.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful too.
I love that.
Him watching his mother die, and then you see that light click, and it's like it's a completely different realization than what happens slower in the other shows.
It's like, and that kind of stuff I was invested in. It's just, it's like, and some of this is just me personally being busy. Like, I kind of dropped off once we hit about episode 3, and then episode 6 came out, and everyone was like, "Stop! I need you to go back and watch this." And then when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, okay," but it didn't have the same like excited impact that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had for me.
Well, you know what I think that I found really interesting is you were talking about how we both agree that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was much more rounded, but it had its own kind of spectacle. And whereas WandaVision, the spectacle was the trope of the TV show and the magic and everything. I think what they were trying to do, at least this is what I'm kind of assuming, it's one of the things that they do with the movies, is whereas they have a formula of a pacing and side characters and whatever, but they want to give each of the movies its own kind of genre kind of feel. Right. I think that's what we have here. As whereas Falcon and the Winter Soldier is more of an action kind of thing, they wanted to make Loki more sci-fi spectacle. And we get
They wanted him to be very Doctor Who.
A lot of visual, a lot of alt spaces, a lot of...
You're going to laugh at me for this, but...
I will not laugh.
This show...
To your face.
Very much gave me the vibes of Fallout and BioShock.
Okay, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, especially with the retro, like, the TVA, the whole... I mean, it was like...
The set pieces were delightful.
Yeah.
All right, I want to talk about some of the side characters real quick. First of all, let's talk about...
We can't run out without talking about him.
Let's talk about Enforcer B-15, first of all.
I like B-15.
I love that actress. We were talking about how much we liked...
she was really badass.
I know. We were talking about how much we love Lovecraft Country. She was in Lovecraft Country. And yes, do you remember her from that? And so I'm like, I like
she's
this actress.
Underrated.
I want to see what she's doing, and she sold again. There's so much that the right actor doing the right, emoting the body language. Her body language, she just had this philosophy of like you just really were like,
underrated.
Yeah,
I love her.
She was great. And then of course, Owen Wilson was amazing. I felt that the actress that played Ravonna was kind of a little bit meh.
Yes, but this kind of feels like a wait and see type of thing.
Kind of wait and see.
I mean, everybody because again, the plot twist we saw at the beginning. The second they talked about it, they were like, Ravonna Renslayer?
Mm-hmm.
And now, it's like, I feel like this is she's not good right now.
But she has the potential. Give it a minute. Now, Kid Loki, meh, in my opinion. Boasting Loki, meh, in my opinion. But the two characters that stole the show, first of all, let's talk about Richard E. Grant as a classic Loki.
Amazing.
As soon as he pops up, and I'm like, tell my husband, I'm like, is that Richard E. Grant? Like, I didn't even know he was in this. Yeah. How did they sneak him in here?
We got distracted.
He is always brilliant. And to have him be Loki was just inspired.
So good. And oh my God, yes. And then
and he has a lovely arc.
I will say that I wish there was more of him.
I would watch more of classic Loki with him in it. And then
I would love to see him do a rant. Because Richard E. Grant does rants like you would not believe. I mean, Hudson Hawk.
Hudson Hawk is my favorite.
I mean,
he's like, you could have been naked with me in the backseat of the limo eating microwave sushi, but no. That's like my favorite line in that whole movie. You had to screw it up.
Yeah, but him as classic Loki. I kind of wish they would just give him a show.
Yes.
Give him a classic Loki show.
So you know what? And it's another thing with him that I did find it amusing that how you're noting that they're sneaking in the Dark Avengers, they're sneaking in the Young Avengers. Have you noticed how they're sneaking in the comic book accurate costumes?
Yeah. They do that every
year. Well, you know that Elizabeth Olsen actually demanded to have a Screen Actors costume. And I love that they did the Halloween.
I want to see them bring Chris Evans back in that touring costume that he had from the first Avenger, and then WandaVision, and then classic Loki, and just have like this by the end of it, have everybody in their original comic book costumes. That would crack me up.
Right? And it's like, it's sad because, again, I keep hearing Agents of Asgard is actually a really interesting book, but I still like what they decided to do with this. I enjoyed this one. it's like, even though now I'm like...
Now, talking about Lovecraft Country, Jonathan Majors as... He Who Remains.
Yeah. Technically not Kane yet.
Technically not Kane.
Technically yes, technically no. Again, it's complicated. We're not going to talk about it.
Now, there has been some chatter with some fans who feel like it just fell too much into the silly Marvel villain trope, and that he was kind of akin to Ultron, James Spader's Ultron, where they take a scary villain and neuter him, or she'd like to say nerf him. And I get that.
Sort of. It's like, but hear me out again, because nothing matters.
This was the nice version.
This is the nice version. This is the nice guy.
Our counter argument to that is, however, you spend this entire time establishing variants. So obviously this is not the scary variant.
Well, because we have to build up the tension. It's like if this character is so formidable, even as a man behind the curtain type character. Yeah. This is
like, you want Infinity Stones? Here, I'll give you Infinity Stones.
It's like,
I'll give you the gauntlet.
Imagine what's going to happen when we finally get to the final boss, Kang.
Yes.
Like, this wasn't even final boss.
He's supposed to be a little bit on the nerf side, so it disarms you, so you're not really ready for exactly how scary he's going to be.
He pops in and he's like, howdy, friend. It's like, we're doing this, so by the time that we get the final Kang that's supposed to be the Thanos of this phase, we are terrified.
Which, by the way, they have just started principal photography on Quantumania, which is the 38 Man and the Wasp, which will feature our first version of Kang. We're not sure which one, if it's the final one or not, but it's going to definitely be a scary one. So we're looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
I am so looking forward to that. I love the fact that Evangelina Lilly is Wasp. Wasp should have been...
And I'll never say anything bad about Paul Rudd. So
yeah, she should have been in Avengers #1.
Even though, what happened with him not aging? It's like, why is he not aging? What's up with that?
Some people just have the genes. It happens.
It's my favorite article that I have had to read in my years of having to watch Marvel stuff. Is literally them talking about their de-aging stuff, and they're like, yeah, we have to get documents of everybody, and he's de-aging. Except for Paul Rudd, we don't get it. We're kind of stressed out about it. We don't get it.
We can't do flashbacks with Paul Rudd.
But anyway, so tomorrow we will talk about the comics and Marvel, what's going on there. And what's going on over the summer a little bit. We won't talk about everything, obviously, but we will talk about a few things. So you guys take care and see you tomorrow.
Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe and share. We love you very much.
All right. Bye.
Take care, guys.